that we talk about quite a bit that is really important that Democrats wrap their heads around. The first aspect of this is that Benjamin Netanyahu is completely anti-democratic. He is a war criminal. He does not serve the interests of Jewish people. He is a dictator to his core, and he should be imprisoned, and he is committing war crimes every single day. Every single day. It is horrific. It is a tragedy. The only difference between Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump is Benjamin Netanyahu is actually smart and a little bit more evil. And so I want to talk to you all about this as it pertains to the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party has an AIPAC problem. And as a taxpayer and as a person that isn't religious at all, I have a lot of Jewish friends, and I am a student of World War II, and I believe that anti-Semitism is real, and I think we all have to unite against it. I think the provocations of Israel right now are damaging any actions against anti-Semitism, because it's very hard to stomach when you see a country that claims to be a pillar of democracy and says, oh, we treat people well, and they're bombing hospitals and they're bombing schools. And then you see videos of kids that are starved out, like those kids that were starved out in Auschwitz, and they're eating sand. And it's a real mindfuck to think, how is this group of people doing this to another group of people? And I want to go on the record to say I completely condemn what happened on October 7th, having a child that goes to music festivals, the horror that those parents went through, the horror that those kids went through that were just trying to have fun, and then to be a hostage of Hamas. I condemn all of it, all across the fucking board. But why is the American government and a lot of American politicians taking money from a country that is committing war crimes? And then they can't speak plainly in the interest of American workers because they're fucking compromised. And let's just do roll call on every single one of them. As you all know, I'm super obsessed with Zohran Mamdani and his electoral victory in the primary of the New York mayoral race. And I think this man has a message. I think the Democratic Party should get behind him. I think the Democratic Party should take notes. I think we should go younger. I think we should go further to the left. I think we should campaign for everybody. And Zohran Mamdani leaves no one behind. But AIPAC doesn't like him because he's Muslim, because that's a brand damaging problem for them. If there's a Muslim that comes out and speaks for everybody, they're going to have a hard time convincing rube Americans that all Muslims are bad and we have to send all our taxpayer money to Israel, who, by the way, gets free health care subsidized by us, gets a lot of bombs subsidized by us. And if your kids in Israel want to go to a higher education, guess what? They don't have to go in debt because it's subsidized by us, by these politicians. Let's do roll call. Let's put them up. Let's call them out. Let's go. New York Democrats who haven't endorsed Mamdani and their AIPAC bag. Let's go. Representative Laura Gillen, $94,905. Representative Adriano Espialat, I'm butchering his last name, $202,000. Representative Tom Suozzi, $312,000. Representative Dan Goldman, $366,000. Representative Gregory Meeks, $690,000. Representative Grace Ming, $619,000. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, almost $1 million, coming in at $997,000. And I will remind you that she engaged in Islamophobic attacks on this mayoral candidate and didn't defend Islamophobia, yet is so quick to call out anybody as being anti-Semitic. And that's the thing in this, is that we can speak out against the provocations and the war crimes of the Israeli government, and they don't get to hold us hostage and tell us we're anti-Semitic. That's bullshit, and don't fall into that trap. Next up, Representative Richie Torres, $1.5 million. Senator Chuck Schumer, $1.7 million. Hakeem Jeffries, $1.7 million. Representative George Latimer, $19 million, almost $20 million. Pumps, what do you think about all this?
Well, I think you can't serve two masters. You cannot take money from a group and then be completely neutral as to other members of different groups. And if you're going to take that much money from somebody, they're expecting you to further their interests. And I just want to piggyback off of something you said, because that Netanyahu is the smarter, more calculated Trump. Am I correct that prior to October 7th, Netanyahu was in major political trouble in terms of staying in power, and that he had the intel?
That is correct.
About the attacks?
That is correct.
He allowed it because it would improve his stance politically.
To stay in power.
To stay in power. And that tells me all I need to know.
And I think the whole Iran thing was a wag the dog away from the egregious genocide and human rights violations that are happening to Palestinians. And this is the part where I get mad at AIPAC, because they want to make everything a binary choice.
That's right.
That you have to support Israel. And here's the thing, like, as somebody who lives in a country right now that has a corrupt government, I don't want to be defined personally by MAGA. I voted against it all 3 times. We get on this, behind this camera and behind these mics 2 and 3 times a day talking about we are not this. We have hundreds of millions of Americans are like us that are not like this. We don't want to be judged by the corruption of Taco Tits and all the sociopaths in his cabinet. And I would think similarly.
Right.
Jewish people, at least the ones that I know, they don't want to be judged by the horrific war crimes of Benjamin Netanyahu. They understand that in the fight against anti-Semitism, starving children and shooting people in waiting for humanitarian aid while they're waiting in line is not a way to help it. And quite frankly, it reminds me, the images that I see there, and the stories that I hear there, it reminds me a lot of the torture and the deprivation that the Jewish race suffered at the end of World War II. So I'm mystified how they're removing all empathy and allowing history to repeat for young Palestinian children, because decades from now, we're going to have people that are going to be survivors of this provocation from Israel to these Palestinian people. Like you hear, my father was a Holocaust survivor. My cousin was a Holocaust survivor. Well, their lives matter too. And I don't like Israel trying to dictate to American people and being the thought police and telling us if we somehow oppose the war in Gaza, that we're anti-Semitic. You don't get to call us that. And the reason that all of these politicians are not jumping on board with this is because Zohran Mamdani is their worst nightmare. They rely on propaganda to get the money from the United States of America and to get our military protection by propagandizing and lying to American citizens that all Muslims are terrorists. All Muslims hate women. All Muslims want Sharia law. And here you have Zohran Mamdani, who stands with one of his opponents, who is a Jewish man who ended up endorsing Zohran, who says, I want to join you in your fight against anti-Semitism. And all of you trans kids that are getting bullied, I stand with you and I want to comfort you and I want you to have a place under my tent. And everybody who works hard all the time and can never get ahead, I don't care what color your skin is, I don't care what your religion is, I'm here to champion for you. I'm here for everyone, because none of us are free until all of us are free. So as an objective person that lives in the middle of America, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going over to some homicidal maniac, Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't think it's right. How does this advance American interests, and how does this advance the interest of keeping Jewish people safe worldwide? Because I think Benjamin Netanyahu's provocations are making Jews less safe all around the world. And I think the message of somebody like Mamdani helps us all get safer, because the best antidote to a lot of these problems are lifting people out of poverty and educating them.
Well, you just have a whole, these, and the Supreme Court allowed it in because AIPAC is not the worst. I mean, it's not the only one. You've got the Elon Musks of the world. You have special interests, the NRA. What we need across the board is limits on political spending so that politicians can represent their constituents and not special interests.
I think AIPAC is one of the worst because they are funding and trying to hold American citizens hostage by being the thought police and labeling them anti-Semitic when they are not. And they are holding our political party, which is our best bet against fighting against this fascist regime. They're compromised. All of those politicians in New York, they should all step out and immediately condemn all of the Islamophobic attacks on Zohran Mamdani, but their AIPAC sponsors won't let them because he's their worst nightmare. American public seeing a Muslim man that cares for everyone, that is progressive, they have to stick with the narrative Muslims throw gay people off buildings. And another thing I want to say about AIPAC, shame on you for saying that you stand for democracy and that Israel is the role model for democracy in the Middle East and this beacon of democracy. Yet you have no problem taking money from a country right now that is dismantling democracy. So you're cherry picking when it's important to you. And all of these politicians are owned by AIPAC, and they put the needs of a criminal Israeli government before the needs of their own American citizens. And it's a problem in the Democratic Party that's got to be reconciled before we make it to the midterms, in my opinion. All right, we just wanted to talk to you about that. Please tell us your thoughts in the comment section. I think this is a big hurdle the Democratic Party has got to reconcile moving forward. Obviously, all dark money needs to go out, but I see this as a glaring, hickey, heaping pussy zit pumps that we've got to pop and exercise from the Democratic Party. That's all we have, you guys. We'll see you later.